Hello, everyone, and welcome to Black Rose Garden, Missing and Murder Podcast, hosted by none other than Black Rose. Hey, happy Love Day to everyone, and welcome to Black Rose Garden, Missing and Murder Podcast. We are streaming live right now on Facebook and YouTube at Monroe Media TV, okay? I need for y'all to get ready, okay? Because I've been talking about this all week. I'm excited, okay? Because it's Black History Month, and it's no other way we're going to do it right.
Yes.
Here on Black Rose Garden, all right? I ain't got no openings or nothing, okay? I'm just so excited to introduce you all to my special guest, all right? I've been talking about him all week. I told y'all to get y'all homework. Y'all had a homework assignment to go and Google and do your research on the historian, Mr. Emmanuel Lawson.
Yay! Woo! Living history.
Living history.
Well,
Living history. Oh, my goodness.
I was just a part of what was happening at that time. Happened to be born at the right time, I guess.
I'm glad I wasn't born at that time. I wouldn't be here right now.
Okay. You did something very remarkable at the young age of 12 years old, during a time, all right, during a time where we wasn't treated good as Black people.
Nope.
We had to overcome a lot of struggles. We were going through things like segregation.
Yep.
All right. And today's interview is going to be centered around desegregation.
Yep.
All right. And this man, okay, this king that I have sitting right here was a part of desegregation.
And Briggs versus Elliott was part of that.
Briggs versus Elliott. Yeah. Explain to them what Briggs versus Elliott was, Mr. Lawson.
Briggs versus Elliott was a lawsuit that we had against the white family. Oh, the white, I think it was the mayor. Anyway, we wanted to integrate the schools. Instead of them letting us go to the white schools, they took the white kids out of school and sent them to a private school and say, okay, you can have this school.
Wow.
Yep. Our school was Scotts Branch High, and we wanted to integrate with their Somerton High School. And there came something where it seems like I think they had to do it. So before we do that, we'll take our kids out and send them to a private school. And that's what they did.
Yep.
Wow.
The story started, I believe, in 1952.
Somewhere along there.
How did this thing get kicked off?
Yes.
I call him Uncle Emmanuel. Yeah. I know him personally. He's my homeboy. Yeah. So,
well, they were resisting. Thurgood Marshall was the person that started this thing about trying to integrate these schools. Thurgood Marshall.
Right.
Yes.
And he's the one that got it started in our Clarendon County. And it was Clarendon County versus, I don't remember exactly. But anyway, that was the litigation. Clarendon County against I'll say the white folk. I'm trying to think of his name. But that was the beginning of it. I was just like around 12, I think.
12 years old.
And we were on the property of Anderson, the white guy. And he said, if you all came and told my father, if you all sign that petition that they got going, I'm going to put you off of my land. And my mom said, well, you don't have to put us off the land because we're going to sign it.
Mr. Emmanuel, how was that being 12 years old during the time of segregation, going to school? You know, I was born in 1970. And we were just reaching the peak of, you know, we hadn't overcame, okay? But I know we had gotten a little further, you know, because of people like you. So to be 12 years old in the South during a time where there was racial tension.
Jim Crow was king.
Yeah, Jim Crow was king. You was in the South. They were burning churches. They were lynching. You were seeing people hanging in trees. We were just talking about that book called The Green Book. Okay. How was that experience growing up back during that time?
We didn't even recognize it. We just knew they didn't want us to go to school with them, and we knew why, because we were Black. But we said, well, okay, we'll have our own schools. And they used to ride a bus to school. You know, we had separate schools anyway. But I lived in St. Paul. After we moved from up closer, went to St. Paul because that Cummie Richardson, a Black man that owned a lot of property, because the white people put us off of their property when we signed that petition. Cummie had, then he said, that's all right. I'm gonna let you all get rent from me. And that's when we went to St. Paul, and Cummie Richardson was the owner. And then, you know, we just didn't have to worry about them anymore. Because we farmed our own, you know, had our own cotton, corn, and all that stuff. Chickens. raised.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How far did you walk?
How far did you walk to school?
We had to walk 3 miles to school.
Wow.
From St. Paul up to Scotts Ranch.
Yep.
Wow.
Into Summerton.
And what was that 3 miles? 3 miles there
and 3 miles back.
Yep. Yeah. But, you know, that wasn't a long back then. You know, being a youngster, you know, you get out of there and get on to school.
But how was it to be walking to school 3 miles and then see white children ride past you on the bus?
Hey, nigga.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. But, you know, but we got used to that. Now, right across from where we moved after they put us out of the land in Summerton, we moved to St. Paul. And across the highway there, 301, was a truck stop. And the owners of the truck stop had 3 or 4 kids. And they used to come over and play with me. The roads truck stop. Huh? White kids.
White children.
Oh, yeah. Come over and we'd play ball and all that. It's like we were all the same.
Right.
Wasn't no prejudice there. But there was all going on in the older folk. That's who were the racists.
Right. Right.
How did you feel as a child, you know, going through that?
You know, it didn't bother me. No, it didn't. We knew where we could go. Right. And that's where we could go. We knew where we couldn't go. And at the truck
Even
stop,
that though, Mr. Emmanuel, you know, being in a situation where you were limited on where you can go. The time you had to be in the house before the street lights, and not because your mama told you, but because, like a lot of us, you know, I grew up in Washington, D.C. So when my mother said be in the house before the street lights, it was because she wanted us in the house, not because we would, you know, she was worried about us getting, you know, caught up by some white man that was going to take us somewhere and do something to us.
No.
How was that?
We didn't have that fear. We had a guy, Skipper was a truck stop owner that right across from where we lived after we moved out into St. Paul. The truck stop over there, a guy named Skipper, white guy, shot and killed a black guy because he rode by him and his wife, and the guy was pissing. He shot him. and I don't think he ever did it in time.
Nope, probably didn't. That that was the norm.
Because he could just shoot a black man. Oh hell, and piss it in front of my wife.
Yep, that was the norm back then. I mean,
I don't even know if they ever was charged with anything, but he may have, had a reprimand or something.
Right.
Wow. Did you spend time in the military?
I did, yeah. After I got out of high school, I went to South Carolina State for a year, and then I left, and I came to D.C. because my mom and stuff was there. And the March on Washington, you remember Martin Luther King?
Yeah, I was down there.
I was down there. It was 1963. I was down there listening to him. When I left there, I went down to the draft board and volunteered for military.
Wow.
What was it like serving in the Army in 1963? We were in Vietnam then. What?
And being a black man. don't
I know you're
out.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, we knew our places, and like I said, I left there and went down and volunteered, and I think about a month later, I got a call saying to report for duty. And I went to Fort. First of all, I went to what was it in Columbia?
Fort Jackson.
Fort Jackson. And I left Fort Jackson. They sent me to Fort Gordon, Georgia. That's where I took my basic. I left Fort Gordon, and they sent me to Fort Sam Houston, Texas.
Yikes!
And I was there for 6 months or something. And I said, I want to go someplace else. I don't care where you send me. Do you want to go to Korea? I said, yeah. I volunteered. I said, yeah, send me someplace. I want to get out of the States and then say I've been somewhere. And
adventurous. That's one thing I could sit here just listening.
And so they sent me to South Korea. I spent a year in South Korea, and while I was there, I took my R&R 2 weeks, and I went to Tokyo and spent the 2 weeks in Tokyo. You just got to go someplace and do something, man.
See,
I didn't want to just sit around and never visited any place.
So when going into the military, right? What was your specialty? I know some people they go in and because you was in the military as well.
I was a lawyer in the military.
How do that? They have their ranks, I guess that's what they would call it.
Yeah, I didn't have it. I was a company clerk. So I was in the in the
orderly room.
Yeah, there you go. I was company clerk. See, I had typing and stuff in high school. I took no, but I'm just saying in high school, I went to Cortez Pizza after I got out of high school. But I took typing and stuff in the high school, so I was prepared for that type of stuff. And,
they had them keeping the records.
I see my family were educated, and so it wasn't like I'm from a family that didn't. My mom was a teacher. My aunts, my uncles, they were all teachers.
Wow.
Yes, indeed. And talking about dropping out of school, you must be crazy.
To hear these kids, and to see what's going on right now with the youth.
Yeah.
What can you say to the youth right now to encourage them?
Especially our young men.
Right now.
Don't try to get grown before your time. Get some education. You can do what the heck you want if you got some brain. And you dare not even skipping school in our family.
What did you do after you got out of the Army? Talk about brains.
I got out and got a job I went with the CIA for what did I work with them? 15 years.
Wow.
Wow.
Yep.
I won't ask you what you did. You might have to kill me.
Don't put that on me. I like you, sweat.
Y'all, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. We are back, y'all. We had to take a quick little break because I had to get myself ready for, because when he got to talking about the CIA, a whole bunch of questions started coming through my mind. Like, how did you survive being Black? Okay, a Black man in the military and then working for the CIA. With white people being like they were at that time.
I have never, even when I was in the military, my best friends were white.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
When I left basic training and I went to Sam Houston, Texas, my best friends were white. I left there and I went to South Korea, and my best friends were white.
Mm.
I mean, not just trying to be that way, they were friendly with me. And Gil Craker, one of the guys in South Korea with me, when I got out, he came from the state of Washington down to Washington, D.C. to see me.
Wow.
Wow.
Hey, I said, oh man, how you doing? Oh, I just came down there. He came down and he knew some people that lived down I think it was in D.C., but on the outskirts of D.C. anyway. But he called me and I met him and we went out and had drinks and stuff. And I've always had a lot of white buddies, and they treated me nice.
Yeah.
No racist stuff. But
wow. That is something.
I've always been able to get along with people, and that's just me.
Was it because you were in, a whole nother country?
I don't think so, because like I said, Gil, they came down from, he's from a little town in Washington, the state of Washington, Zillow, Washington. And he came all the way over to Washington, D.C., where he probably didn't even have a lot of black friends. But we met.
Oh, the
His
trip,
beautiful wife is
the trip
here,
to
y'all.
Alabama. Mama said, tell him about the time you went to Alabama with your white friend.
Oh, and yeah, I was there, and the guy they came around and asked, and they said, "Well, we can't serve you," and he said, well, "Okay, let's go." Okay, let's go, man. That's my white friends.
Right.
That's how we're going.
One of your army buddies.
Yeah.
So y'all did stick together.
Oh yeah.
Back then.
Yeah. I wouldn't have stopped been with him at all, He was just a nice guy from the beginning, and no prejudice. Now, and he grew up in an area where there weren't many blacks.
Right.
Now back to the school. Back to the school thing, because like I said, I was very intrigued by your story to know that at 12 years old, you were part of a lawsuit which brought busing for blacks. How did all of that, because most 12-year-olds are not going to be thinking about things like that. Yeah. Like, as a 12-year-old child, what made you even notice that, that was something that, was supposed to take place?
Well, you see, my parents were always trying to get to get this integration thing, but it wasn't that easy back then. But we had the white schools had buses, and like I said, I walked to school
3 miles.
3 miles, and they would drive by us, and hey, nigga,
spit at you.
Yeah,
spit at you.
But it never bothered me. I had a couple of white friends that the truck stop owner that was across the road from our house, Danny and Donnie, and they were white guys. They'd come up and play with me, play ball and whatever, and run around and doing anything. It's like it was nothing. So I never had no hatred for anybody. I mean, I knew what was happening, but and then the military, I had a bunch of white friends, and like I said, the Gil came down from Washington State just to see me after we left Korea.
But to know that all of that type of stuff was going on around you, because it was a lot of people that wasn't as lucky as you.
No, I know.
Back then, I mean, the stories that.
But I don't crucify ones that don't feel that way. And the ones that do feel it, I know how to get rid of it. I'll get away from them. But I won't deny someone who wants to be the friend. All right.
Were you scared?
No, I've never been scared in my life. I'm serious. And I'd take chances on anything. But,
How many hours did you work the fields, before you went to school?
In the fields? Picking cotton and shopping. Oh, man. from sunrise to sunset.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
But we had a big farm. My family had big farms. Um, I grew up with my aunt, my grandfather's oldest daughter. I grew up with her and her kids, and they were older than me. Um, my father died when I was 3,
Mm.
um, and my mother had 4 boys at the time. Her her oldest sister, my aunt, said when they had my father in the casket, and I can remember them holding me up. I was about 4, over the casket, and I said, Francis. That was my father's name. And they said, yeah, Francis. And they took me down, and I don't know if I cried or not, but I always remember them holding me over with my dad. And so after he was buried, my mom had 4 boys, but I took a liking to my mom's older sister, Lucretia. And she said, May, just you got these 4 boys. Let me take Emmanuel home with me and until y'all get straight. And she took me with her.
Mm.
It's the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
She was such a kind woman.
Mm.
And she loved me like I was her kid. And, she was a wonderful person. Wonderful.
It sounds like you had a lot of beautiful people,
Oh, yeah.
to help you get through that time,
Yeah.
to not notice one of the most, to really, because, to really not, you had enough love around you to surround you.
To not know
to not notice how bad things were
really
back then for Black people.
Yes.
That's what it sounds like when you tell a story, because that was like one of the defining moments in our time, during our time. That was a very defining moment, during our time, so to know that you had time like that where you didn't have to, you didn't really have to worry about too much in your box.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? In your box. You didn't have to worry about a lot of things, even though when you step outside your door, I'm pretty sure on them 3 miles walking to school, you saw a burnt church or someone's house burned up, or maybe you might have even saw someone hanging in a tree.
Now, here's how I got to, because I don't know if I said it before, but my dad died when I was 4. And we were living in Philadelphia. My mom and dad and my older brothers. And my aunt, that raised me, my mother's oldest sister, was in Philadelphia just before my father died. He wasn't even sick or nothing, and she was just up there visiting. And I took a liking to her so much, and I think I was 4. And I took a liking to her, and I would just hang on with her. And then when she came back home, she wanted to bring me, and she said, "Well, no." My mom said, "No, I won't. I'll just when we come down, which is coming from Philly back to South Carolina, and we're gonna bring Emmanuel, and he can see you." He said, "Okay." Well, my father died before they came back. When I had the chance to come back, and so when they brought his body back, because he was from South Carolina, they brought his body back there, and I can remember them holding me over his casket, and I said, "Francis." And I was 4 years old, and I said, "Francis," and Francis, he's sleeping, and okay, and this went on. But after that, my mother, my aunt, my oldest aunt said, May, my mother, let me keep Emmanuel because you got all these 4 boys. And Emmanuel, I took to her. So she said, let me keep him for a while. And she kept me until I graduated from high school.
Look.
And that's
high school.
The most wonderful woman you could ever meet, Lucretia.
And your Aunt Lucretia had him signing a petition to sue the school system at 12.
At 12 years old.
And change the world.
Yeah, let's speak about that. You know, when she came to you with that petition, okay, did you understand what you were doing, what you were signing?
Well, actually, they signed it, but, it was in our behalf that, And
your signature was there.
And the Briggs family, they all signed it. Because we, our meetings, the NACP type, we discussed all these things. We weren't going to take shit from this one. It's because most of my family are educated. And so we could persuade lesser educated people that, what they're doing to you.
Right.
And that I say my mom's a teacher. I got 3 uncles that were teachers. So for education, you had to be educated.
Right.
You couldn't leave the house till you got your books.
Right.
You got your studies.
Right.
And you better not come home with no bad grades.
Amen.
No, that was my family.
Well, high school. What was that experience like?
Oh, like I said, you had to be there. Cutting school. Everybody in my family at least got a high school degree.
Right.
Did you go to school with white folks? With our white sisters and brothers?
I did after I got out of high school.
College?
Yeah.
Okay.
And some of my best friends were white.
Right.
Because I'm the type of person I can get along with anybody.
With anybody.
Yeah.
And I haven't been talking a whole lot because.
And I had white friends coming over from the truck stop. Their dad owned the truck stop, and they're right across the street from where we lived.
Right.
And Danny and Dusty used to come over there and play with me, and we'd wrestle and do all kinds. There just never any racist thing in my head.
Right. And I haven't jumped in because I wanted this is about you, Uncle Emmanuel. I wanted him to tell his story.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna tell you how we met. When I was running for office, I met his wife first, Miss Joanne. And we were all sitting and talking, and he mentioned that he was from South Carolina. I said, really? Where in South Carolina? And he told me he was from Somerton. And I said, oh my God. My mother's a school teacher. My mother taught at his old high school.
Wow.
My mother taught at Scotts Branch High School for years. So I grew up knowing the story of Briggs versus Elliott.
Right.
I knew.
Get into that, Tom.
Yeah, I knew.
Get into that.
What most people don't know, we all talk about Brown versus Board of Education from Topeka, Kansas, because that's the Supreme Court case.
Yeah. Right.
And that came about
because of Briggs.
Okay.
Yes. Briggs versus Elliott started it all. Yeah. That was the first case in my home state of South Carolina, in a little town called Somerton, South Carolina, exit 98 on I-95 going south. But we started talking about Scotts Branch and the fact that my mother had taught at Scotts Branch, I want to say for 14, 15 years of her career. And my grandfather was from Alcaloo, which is just beyond St. Paul. So we started comparing notes. And then it dawned on me, my mother's teaching assistant might have been related to Mr. Lawson. Sure enough, she was. My mother's teacher assistant, her father was Mr. Henry Lawson. And he owned a gas station in Somerton, South Carolina. And so I said, man, you family. And so I started calling Mr. Lawson Uncle Emmanuel. And I started asking questions about, and he started sharing with me. And I've always grown up knowing about Clarendon County because my grandfather was born there.
Right.
But my grandfather would have been 100 years old last year. He's been deceased now since 1996.
Wow.
But the memories that my grandfather had of Somerton and Manning and Alcaloo were totally different than what Mr. Emmanuel had.
So what was that lawsuit all about?
It was Briggs versus Elliott was about the fact that families in Somerton wanted equal education for their children. Scotts Branch High School, tell them it was a one-room school. Who all went to Scotts Branch during your time, Uncle Emmanuel? Tell them about that school. How many students did you all have there?
Oh boy, I can't even remember, but they wanted. We were trying to get to the white school, and they said, before you go to our school, we'll leave.
Yep.
They left their school when they found that we were planning to try to integrate. They just got up and they put up private schools for the whites, and they abandoned their school.
Wow.
So we took it.
Scotts Branch High School, when you see the movies and they show you, like, I'm going to go to Little House on the Prairie, that one classroom school, all the kids, no matter what age they were in that same classroom. That's what we were talking about in 1952.
You better stop.
So from first grade to 12th grade, the Black children in Somerton, South Carolina,
in 1952,
one-room schoolhouses. Yes.
Lord have
and
mercy.
So, because I've studied this now that I'm a lawyer, I've gotten deep, and the case still exists. It's recorded in the federal trial books and everything. But you can read about the story. It's at the 342nd volume of the U.S. Court Reports at page 350. One-room schoolhouse. So the families in Somerton, led by Mr. Briggs, signed a petition to get a new school and buses for their children. And just like Mr. Lawson said, the white superintendent said, before I'll build you a new school, because this is a public school, state money, before I build you a new school, we'll just give you the school, our old school. You can have it.
Yeah. And they took it.
Wow.
And technically speaking, when you look at Briggs versus Elliott, the Briggs family and all of the Black families that joined in that suit lost. Because the United States District Court for South Carolina, the Eastern District, said, nope, if they're going to give you a school that's better than what you got now,
take it.
Yeah.
And that's it.
That's it. And they lost the case. There's a second case that was rolled into Brown versus Board of Education. It's a total of 3. That case is not from South Carolina, so I'm not going to get into the details. But that case started after Briggs versus Elliott. Briggs versus Elliott was first in 1952.
Wow.
The second case was started, and then the last case was Brown versus Board of Education in Topeka, Kansas.
That's my last name.
The cases had similar outcomes, but the NAACP Legal Defense Fund picked it up and said, hey, we see a trend here. Only takes 3 under the law. We see a trend. Our Black children are not getting the same equal education as the white students, and we're paying taxes.
Wow.
And so young Thurgood Marshall, working for the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, picked up those cases. And there are pictures in the history books and in the archives of South Carolina where he visited Somerton and met with the families at Liberty Hill AME Church.
Good God Almighty.
I remember that. Yeah, Liberty Hill AME.
Yep.
What was that like, that moment?
Well, in the moment, you don't even realize there's anything.
You're just fighting for justice.
Yeah.
So fighting just sounds like a normal thing.
Right. Yeah, because
for us, it's just been that way all of our lives.
And the good thing about it, my family, my grandfather had, I forgot how many aunts and uncles they had, but every one of them went on to have a college degree.
Wow.
There was no
throughout
such thing
throughout all of that.
There's no such thing as not going to school.
Mm-hmm.
And not in my family.
Right.
What do you mean you ain't going to school? You get out of here.
Right.
Wow.
No, that was always taught. And so that being instilled in you, you're going to want to go reach higher ground. And, and my uncle, I've got an uncle in Delaware, not Delaware, down in Virginia. Oh, God. Anyway, my uncle's is the school principal.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been that for years. That's my youngest uncle, Uncle Robert Hampton. Yeah.
Wow.
But, our family was, you just had to be educated. You ain't getting out of here talking about I ain't going to school.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing I try to get our babies to understand. My mother, still alive, still living in South Carolina, is in Mr. Emmanuel's generation.
Right.
My mom's 74. She'll be 75 in August. My grandparents were not able to get an education because they grew up as sharecroppers.
Right. My great-great-grandmother, during that time, they wasn't able to get an education.
Right.
And they wasn't able to get an education. And just the stories, and I remember, by the time my great-grandmother died, I say about 3 years old.
Yeah.
She died of cancer, during that time. And I just remember this, even as a young kid like that. And as you get older and you have people that can tell those stories. That's why I miss my matriarchs. Of the family.
And our patriarchs.
I miss them so much because they had so much history behind them. We need that today. That's why I felt it very important to have Mr. Emmanuel come in because of what we're dealing with right now. I look at the crime statistics and everything, and I say, and I'm always, up on top of that because my job as an advocate and an activist, in this fight is to try to find a way to combat this.
Right.
Because, even when it comes to programs, you got to still know what type of programs to have out there.
Right.
And I think that is very important to educate our children on Black history, educate them on the times that, Mr. Emmanuel went through, when he was growing up and that whole thing, even though he had people to protect him in a way where he did not have to see all of that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He didn't have to really experience all of that, type of stuff, that was going on. And even today, our children are in a bad situation. They are in a very bad situation.
Right.
So it just, for me right now, trying to figure this whole thing out, y'all, it's kind of, I'm at my wit's end.
Right.
Because it's just so much to it. First of all, it's understanding who we are as people.
Right.
Okay? Because what we don't do, we play a part in this mess too. You know what I'm saying? I tell people all the time that it was us before it was Willie Lynch. It was us that was helping them lead us to the boats. It was us helping them, like trading off herbs and spices and gold and emeralds and diamonds for us.
Right.
Muskets.
Right. History comes full circle.
Yeah.
And I believe it was Abraham Lincoln who said, those who forget their history are deemed to repeat it.
Exactly. And that's why you see what's going on right now.
We're repeating history. We've gone from a generation where my grandparents couldn't get a high school diploma because they were sharecropping. They weren't slaves.
Right.
They were a generation away from slavery. They were sharecroppers. But they couldn't go to school.
They couldn't go
to school. This generation where the focus was get your education. You will not miss a day of school. And look at where Mr. Emmanuel's education has taken him. From a 12-year-old boy
fighting,
walking 3 miles one way to school.
Yeah.
Fighting for more than just a one-room schoolhouse.
Even understanding that was wrong.
Yes.
That's what I was trying to figure out. How can it, because most 12-year-old children is not going to have that type of fight in them.
Right.
That's what intrigued me so much about Mr. Emmanuel. When you say he was 12 years old and he was smart enough to sign a petition so that they can have a bigger school.
Right.
So that they can have busing to school.
Right.
What 12-year-old?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's remarkable. That is something that we have to talk about.
Yes.
We have to, put these type of things out there to show our children. Me being a 52-year-old woman, listening to this story gives me hope.
Right.
And the thing was, in our family, there was no such thing as dropping out of school. What do you mean you ain't going to school? Everybody in my family, like my uncle down in Hampton, all of his kids got degrees.
Right.
And everyone in our family had to be a graduate of high school at least. But my uncle is the general manager of Hampton Institute.
What did the parents do so different then that they're not doing today?
Because back, you had to have education to go anywhere back in the day. Now you can probably just get by without it. But if you wanted to work in the fields, okay, you can do that. But I got school teachers, most of my aunts, and
so they wanted better for you.
Oh yeah,
they wanted better,
and they knew education was the answer.
I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and him and I were just talking about Black love. Back during that time, the Black love thing going on, and how families, even through the segregation, even through the segregation and the burning of the churches and all of that stuff, we didn't have that many divorces back then.
Right.
People were having babies. We had Black families. The picture of Black family during the segregation was them sitting at the table having dinner.
Right.
I don't care what movie you look at, what piece of history, it always captured us sitting at the table having dinner. Something that we don't even think about today. I think that if we go back, I tell people all the time, if we go back to that old way of doing things, even myself, being born in the 70s, like we did not leave the house without in the mornings. We didn't leave the house before we left the house. We didn't just have a bowl of cereal. Right. Well, I don't even know if we even knew what the hell that was back then, because my grandmother was up at 4:30 in the morning getting that dough together, baking biscuits, frying fish that my grandfather had went to the lake that Sunday and caught and cleaned, sat up on the back porch and cleaned. Harmony grits, fried potatoes, about 5 different types of meat. Like, that's how I wanted to go upstairs and go to bed. By the time I had breakfast, but even leaving out the house like that, we had a good day. And so that's what makes me feel, that's another thing that makes me feel so bad about these kids today that don't get to experience that.
Right. But the other thing I heard Mr. Emmanuel talk about, his aunt. His aunt Lucretia. She told his mama, May, you got 4 boys. Let me take Emmanuel.
Let me take Emmanuel.
Let me help you out. I said years ago, Big Mama dead.
But guess what?
We don't do that anymore.
No, we don't do that no more. But guess what happened when Mamie Till's family told her, let me take Emmett.
Right.
Let me take Emmett down here and give him a good summer.
And he was just visiting for the summer. Right.
You know, he was just visiting from the summer and went through that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You see what I'm saying?
Yep. Yeah. You sort of had to, back in the day, you had to sort of know what to say and what to do. The truck stop that was across from our house down in Somerton. The guys, the boys, the sons of the truck stop owner would come over to my place and we'd play and wrestle and do all that stuff. You know, two white boys. And it always come to nowhere. But there was no racist, nothing.
Right.
Wrestle each other and all that stuff.
But they protected him because they would go to him instead of having Mr. Emmanuel come across the street to the truck stop where the hatred was passing through.
Yeah, because people coming in the truck stop, they don't, mostly white anyway. But you know, I've been blessed, I'll tell you. Got me a good wife.
We're gonna take a quick break, y'all.
No,
Now, look, we got to share some of the stuff.
Yeah.
We y'all missed some stuff. We was off camera.
We was off camera.
Now you got to share about your mom and how she would share stuff.
Yeah, man.
Talk about that. We got to tell them about this community.
Oh yeah.
Cake.
She was
Because these kids don't want to go get you a glass of water from downstairs.
And the people that lived in the neighborhood, if they didn't have something like the corner dingle, I'll never get. He used to beat his wife. Oh, she'd come over to, oh, Creature, you been hitting me. And she'd go, Corner, you leave it alone now. And then she'd sit there and next thing you know, take Cora some of the stuff I cooked. And so she was always giving. She was a giving person. Because we had a big farm and we, grew our own stuff. Corn, cotton, everything, potatoes. We had a big farm. But we'd help all the neighbors. Of course, they came and worked for us too in the fields. But we were fortunate.
Wow.
That's it.
And see, we don't do that kind of stuff anymore.
Yeah, we have missed out on a lot of that.
I mean, I laugh. I tell people about Reagan cheese. That's the best thing I know about President Ronald Reagan. I'm not a Republican.
Yeah.
Y'all forgive me. But when
Make
Hugo,
grilled cheese,
look, exactly.
Okay.
When we got hit by Hurricane Hugo, they gave everybody in South Carolina. They were giving out the cheese. We got the little box of cheese. Grandma did the same thing. She cut that cheese up in like 6 pieces, wrapped them up. And I was saying we would DoorDash before there was a DoorDash because we had to take that cheese to every neighbor. She shared with those who didn't get any.
Now you were
That's
in what
how
area?
Orangeburg. I grew up in Orangeburg, South Carolina.
Yeah.
Mama would drive that 40 miles over there to Scotts Branch back and forth every day.
And I think, that Southern hospitality is in us all.
It is.
Because I remember my grandmother, when she made dinner for all of the kids. And they would come and sit at our table and eat dinner. And she'll call and be like, Dolores down the street, look, Kevin down here is sitting down eating dinner. Do you want me to send you a plate over? Things of that nature. That's why I guess I'm the way I am today. Sometimes that can be a blessing and a curse.
Yes.
It can be a blessing and a curse.
Yes. But it's people like Mr. Lawson.
Like Mr. Lawson.
It still lives. And it's been transplanted.
Yeah.
From South Carolina.
Nah, it's to Prince George's County.
To Prince George's County by way of Korea and Japan.
And now right here on the set of Black Rose Garden, Listen to Murder Podcast.
Yes.
80 years old.
And look, mamas, because I know there's a lot of mamas watch the show. Share this with your sons.
With your children. Yeah.
With your son. Our girls see us out here hustling. Our boys see us hustling, but we need to show more men who've done positive things in the community. No, you're not.
No.
He said, is he really that old? No, you're not. No, you're not. No, you're not.
I mean, to be able to come through a time in an era where you came through, this is amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is Black excellence at its finest.
At its best.
At its finest. And I am so proud and I'm honored to have you on my platform today. And, I look forward to taking you out there, being my weapon to help these children understand that they can overcome anything. If you can't overcome such a bad time in our history, racism, segregation, the civil rights movement, all in one, had been in 1952 experiencing a one-room schoolhouse, where everybody had to sit, the stuff that these kids look at on the TV if they get a chance, you know what I'm saying? They see it on the TV. Like, even myself, I didn't even know that they had one room, still had one room schoolhouses back in 1952. That's unbelievable. But when, they say that I lived in Missouri for 15 years. I lived in Missouri for 15 years. My children were raised. I raised my children there. They were very young, when I took them there. And people were like, why did you go there? This is the last state to free the slaves. And it's very racist here. And, just to sit, I feel him when he say that he had people protecting him.
Right.
He had so much love, surrounded by so much love, so he didn't experience that. Because me and my son was just having a conversation about this, the fact that we were in Missouri and all of his friends were either white or Bosnian.
Mm-hmm.
He had a couple of Black friends, but his friends were white and Bosnian. And he never had an issue. And I never had an issue. Right. We grew up in some of the work. We lived this, and I didn't know it. Going to Missouri, going to St. Louis, I did not know. I was just trying to get away from D.C., take my children and show them a better way, and show myself a better way. Because I was coming out of some things, and I knew that the only way I was going to be able to survive was to, so I had to get away, take my kids, give them a better life and everything. But my experience there, because people was like, they going through this, they going through that. So I feel like Mr. Emmanuel at that time while I was there, because every opportunity that I got was given to me by my white brothers and sisters. It really was.
Well, my best friends, were white.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, the truck stop that was off on 301 there was right across from us. And Danny and his brother Donnie, they'd all come over and we'd play and wrestle and all that stuff. And just like they were Black or anything.
Yeah, I walked into St. Louis University School of Medicine, and I was a janitor. And by the time I finished, I was working in research. And that was because people took a chance on me.
Right.
They took a chance on me. I thought that I needed a degree to work in research. I had a white man, Dr. Smith, tell me, no, you don't need a degree. You need 5 recommendations, and I'm going to give you your first one.
Amen.
I'm going to give you your first one.
See.
And I went to each floor that I pulled trash from and got a letter of recommendation from each doctor.
Right.
And that's how I got into research.
Yep. And I say this, coming from South Carolina. I tell people I was conceived, born, and bred in the state of South Carolina. When I left home, I was not proud of my home state. Because if you know your history, South Carolina was the first state to secede from the Union and start the Civil War because they wanted to keep slaves.
Wow.
I couldn't be proud of that when I left home. It was only after joining the military and traveling a little bit and meeting other people and then going back home for a bit did I come to appreciate my home state. And I'm not going to tell you South Carolina perfect, because Lord, they still got some issues. But what I will say is South Carolina has learned a lot from its history. And Mr. Emmanuel growing up on Highway 301, let me tell you the significance of 301. 301 literally runs up and down the East Coast of the United States. You can go, you can go from Florida to Maine on Highway 301. Same thing with US 1, but US 1 goes a little further in westward than 301. Right. 301 runs up and down the corridor. We've talked about that green book. If you ever get to see one of those green books for African Americans traveling up north and south, 301 was the major route. That's where your gas stations were, your restaurants, your hotels if you needed to sleep for the night. You did not get off of 301 because you wandered down the wrong little country road. Oops, you might not make it back.
Good God Almighty.
And so to hear Uncle Emmanuel talk about growing up across the street from that truck stop and how those little white boys befriended him. They did that because they came in contact with Black people all the time. Because that was our way of travel. Black people stopped at that, not just the trucks. Black families stopped at that truck stop in St. Paul to get gas. I remember that truck stop. Because when we traveled from Orangeburg up north, I had family in New York and Connecticut. When we traveled 301, we stopped at that. It was there for a long time. I think they just tore it down maybe 20 years ago.
Wow.
But a lot of Black, yes, ma'am. A lot of Black families, a lot of families would go through there. And that was one of the places we knew we were safe to stop to get gas. So the Rhodes family were in contact with us, with Black people a lot. So they knew they had no time for hatred because they needed that money just as much as we needed the gas.
Thank you so much, Uncle Emmanuel. Thank you so much for just gracing and just giving me some of your time.
I enjoyed talking about it because it was just so different. Like I said, the two boys that the dad had the truck stop. And they would come over and we'd play and wrestle and do all that stuff. They didn't know nothing about Black.
Yeah, right. In the Greenville.
And it was just it's a good experience. Like that, even though you didn't want it to be, but I'm glad that I did come up that way.
Right.
Just to see how things were and now to see how they are now. That's what I'll be. I live to see it.
Thank you.
And look,
y'all want to see more of Uncle Emmanuel too, okay? Because we got a lot in store, y'all.
Yes, and he's so humble. I love that about him. We cut up, we laugh, we have a good time. We sit around, we eat, talk, but he's so humble. Uncle Emmanuel, ain't no bravado in him whatsoever. None whatsoever. And I love it because he reminds me of the men in my family from back home.
Oh, really?
And he makes me feel like I still got a little piece of home with me. And y'all, let me tell you how humble he is. He come on up in here today with $100 for Rose and me to go to lunch. We ain't going no lunch. We going to invest this money in the show so Rose can keep bringing y'all some good journalism on what's happening in our community. Because we need this for our children. We need this for us.
Yeah.
We thank you, Uncle Emmanuel, for taking your retired afternoon and hanging out with us today.
Okay, my pleasure.
Yes. So then we're going to get ready we're going to take a quick break and we're going to be back with the ugly part.
Yeah, we're going to share a little bit more history. Yeah.
We're going to share a little bit more history and get into some missing and murder. We are back. I hope y'all enjoyed the first part of the show. Okay, that's me. I hope y'all enjoyed the first part of the show. Like I said, I wanted to, just bring some
living
living
legends.
Living legends. Yes. That's what it's all about.
Yes.
This is Black History Month. And we supposed to, bring it in with a bang.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have coming soon. We're going to be Dr. Claude Anderson is going to grace our presence. Okay. And so we got a lot in store for Black history. A lot in store for Black history. As y'all know, we are in the missing and murdered segment of the show right now. Okay. Back, I'm gonna say January the 21st, 2023. 3 young men in Detroit was reported missing, 3 rappers. Amani Kelly and Dante Wicker and Montre Adams, I want to say, was his name. Actually, I had Amari Kelly's case when it first came about. Okay. I had his case. It was given to me from the NamUs database. All right. Like I said, he was reported missing on the 21st of January. Now, no one knew about the other 2 that was missing along with him. I had posted Amani's flyer on my TikTok platform. And I say about a couple of hours after it being posted, the sister of Dante Wicker reached out to me on TikTok and left her number. I got, I was live at the time.
Right.
And I called her and she informed me that her brother, 31-year-old brother, was picked up by Amani Kelly.
Oh, wow.
And he was with him when they were supposed to went to this lounge in Detroit called Lounge 31. And they were supposed to perform, did an open mic for a birthday party at this lounge. Now, it's kind of a lot of discrepancies in this case because January the 23rd, Amani's car was found. Okay. It was found with the license plates taken off of it. And it was actually found almost 6 miles from the lounge that they were supposed to perform in. Okay. Now, once Dante's sister reached out, she informed me that, Amani picked up her brother and it was another guy with them and they were all headed to Detroit. All right. Dante lived in Melvinsdale, Michigan. Amani lived almost 4 hours outside of Detroit. And Montre lived actually in Detroit. Okay. Amani was driving his mother's car, which had an OnStar system in it. So she tracked the car. She knew the locations that, the car had went in. But the crazy part about it is during the time that she tracked the car, the location at this Lounge 31 did not show up. So we don't know whether they made it to the club or whatever happened. We don't know if they were kidnapped, if they actually was at the club.
Right.
But all I know is that Amani Kelly called his wife, his fiance, and told her that they had canceled the open mic. Okay. I don't know if He got a phone call from the club or whatever. You know, I don't know how that happened.
Right.
But they canceled it, and that he was going to try to catch up with some friends and go do another open mic. Now, to make a long story short, y'all, they found the 3 of them in Detroit City in an abandoned, rat-infested apartment. Okay. The situation, this apartment building, I have talked to a few people from Detroit City, and this apartment building is an apartment building that's been abandoned for a while, but it's known for squatters, you know, people that's, you know, sleep in there. Right. Now, when I got in touch with with Dante's sister, she informed me that the police came to the house, but nobody was talking about the situation with him going missing with Amani. They was just talking about Amani. Like I said, it was nothing about Dante going missing, nothing about the other guy going missing at all. You didn't hear anything about it. I knew about Amani's case because it was posted on the NamUs database.
Now, did the other 2 families file missing persons report?
Well, Dante's mother filed the missing person. She thought she filed the missing persons report. This is where I came in at.
Right.
Okay, she thought she filed the missing persons report. She had called the police. Police came out. You know, they gave her detectives' numbers, but they never gave her a missing persons report number.
Ooh.
So when they reached out to me, I made a flyer up. I got a flyer together, and they gave me the contact information to be able to reach out to the detectives. It took me about 5 hours to get in touch with somebody on his behalf because it wasn't a missing persons report filed.
Wow.
So after that, I was able, and shout out to District 3, right? Detroit City District 3. I can't think of the lady's name, but she assisted me all the way from Maryland to do a missing persons report for Dante over the phone.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And that was January the 30th. All right.
Wow.
January the 31st is when she called me back that next day. She told me, she said, the missing persons report is filed. This is the number. This is to contact people to violent crimes and to, you know, the detective that you need to talk to. Right. So I had a phone call with them, conference call with them. We talked about the case, this, that, and the third. And I was a little upset that, you know, it took all of that. And this mom thinking, Dante's mom and his family thinking that the police is out looking for him.
Right.
But he hadn't even been mentioned. So by the time the 31st came, to make a long story short, I had the Action News at Dante's mother's house interviewing them.
Right.
And they updated the article that they put out about Amani on CNN and included all 3 of them.
Good.
So that's why I say advocacy work.
Yes.
It's very important.
It's important. Very important. We have to, and not just in the case of murdered and missing or abused. We have to advocate for everything.
Everything.
I was just at the county council's meeting this morning right here in Prince George's County. And I will tell you.
I see you with your court stuff.
Oh, yeah. I was working today, girl. But lift your voice. The Blaq national anthem says, lift every voice and sing. Lift, you have to. We have to stop assuming the process will follow a course just by the fact that we put in a complaint or we send an email or we make a phone call. No, if you don't hear anything within 3 days, follow up.
Yes.
The doctor will tell you if you ain't paying for 3 days, you need to call me and schedule an appointment. I'm going to tell you, if you file a missing persons and you don't hear anything, you need to follow up.
I mean, first of all, it's key things to filing a missing persons report. If you don't have a report number, then it's
Right.
not a report file.
Exactly.
And that's to any parent, God forbid, any
Yes.
loved one who experienced something
Yes.
like that. The police can come to your house and they can talk to you and this, that, and the third. But if you don't have a number,
Right.
sometimes it's 9, sometimes it's 12,
Exactly.
sometimes it's 16. If you don't have a number, then it's nothing done.
And they don't have to go back to the station to get a number. Let me tell you how easy it is for them to get a report number. When you call, there's an entry in the dispatch log.
That's right.
The dispatch operator will tell you what officer, what the officer's ID number was, what time they sent them, and where they sent them.
That's right.
If the officer needs a report number, all he's got to do is go back to his car and radio dispatch and say, I need a report number.
And then they're going to come back in. Yep. And they're going to come back in with a little card or a slip of paper.
Usually they give you that business card with the report number on
all of the information on there.
Correct.
So if they don't do that, then you haven't filed the report. And I tell y'all that all of the time. It's very important because it took me almost 6 hours to get there because they gave me the runaround because all I knew was, I didn't have a report number. That's the first thing they asked me. Do you have a report number? No, they did not give this mom a report number. Well, where did you file the missing? Where did he go missing from? Melvinsdale. Well, the Melvinsdale Police Department is going to have this. Sir, I know this. I know that when a person goes missing, that jurisdiction is going to come out. It does not matter if the person lived over there. If he went missing over there, then that police jurisdiction is going to come out.
Yes, because that's the last place the person was seen.
Yeah.
And so presumably, if there's any criminal activity, that's the jurisdiction and place of the crime.
And I felt so bad because, we have statistics when it comes to males going missing. Usually 86% of the time that males go missing is either criminal matter or it's a homicide. Okay? There's no other, I haven't had a case where, you know what I'm saying, that it turned out, where, especially in a situation like that.
Right.
And so even in the midst of praying that these 3 young men would be, return home safe and in one piece, I still was scared to death.
Right.
I still, in my heart, I knew something was wrong.
Right.
And so it just blew my mind how they did not, it was like minimal. It's 3 whole people missing.
Right. And you said they found the 3 in an apartment?
They found them in an abandoned apartment building. They had been shot to death.
See?
It took a little while for them to, they were frozen. Their bodies were frozen.
Because it's cold.
It's no telling what the conditions of their bodies were in because.
I mean, depending upon a little bit of forensics I remember from my criminal days, depending upon when the killings occurred and how quickly the cold took over. Sometimes the cold can preserve a whole lot of evidence, but a lot of it depends upon time.
Yeah, it was snowing. It was actually snowing down there. It was, a lot of feet of snow. And, when they were talking about the case, they were basically saying that, it took them a long time to even get in there because of the rats.
Right.
In there and everything. So it was kind of bad. And, just to have them families go through that.
Right.
And
I want to send so many questions.
Yeah, I want to send my love and condolences out to all of the families. Yes. But especially the family of Dante Wicker, Miss Donna Lewis, his mom, and his sister and his aunts and everything. It's a bad situation. Yes. And Dante didn't even have a Facebook profile. Wow. He didn't have a Facebook profile. There was some things going on with Amani. He had him a what you would call a blog channel on YouTube, and he also did a video.
Okay.
On Facebook 2 days before he was reported missing. And that video told it all. It told it all. It told it all. The video told it all. So it was one of those situations where, I just knew that it wasn't going to turn out right. But to just hear the story, hear Dante's mother say, he didn't even have a Facebook page. I think that if he would have had a Facebook page and he would have saw that, I don't even think he would have participated, had went on with that, because it was just, it's a lot. Right. So they're still fighting for justice. They have arrested 3 people. One of them was arrested in Tennessee. Now, I don't know what was all about that, but he was arrested in Tennessee. They also arrested a 15-year-old child. They arrested a 15-year-old boy, who they caught actually riding around in the car. Okay, so this is still an open investigation. And if you have any information on this case, please contact the Detroit City Police Department at 313-596-5300. Okay. And I'm going to be posting that out. I'm going to get that out there on my social media platforms. Yeah.
Look, it is heartbreaking.
That's what my life has been about. That's what my life has been about here lately. It has not been, it ain't been good. These cases, have been, we had some that closed on February the 3rd, that was the sentencing for Darnell Sterling. It's just been a lot. It's been a lot going on. So I just try to look out for these families, and I pray for these families. I just pray for these families.
And we have to. I pray daily for our young men. Please don't get me wrong. I pray for our young ladies too, because they're getting caught up in some criminal activity that, in my wildest dreams, I never would have thought about, imagined, or even tried. But I have to pray for our young men, because without them, we don't have families.
Right.
We can't have families.
Can't have families.
I mean, to hear this is heartbreaking. 3 young men now gone.
3 young men
gone.
Yeah.
And then we have another 3 who've been arrested. So they're gonna end up
6
being
families that's destroyed.
Exactly.
In one swipe.
Yes. Yes.
But I don't understand what's in the mind of these young people. We just had history sitting right here. And to hear everything that he went through, and the time that he was going through it, and the fight that he had at 12 years old, and to see us today being granted all of the privileges from people like him and Dr. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and Thurgood Marshall, and all of the rest of our civil rights heroes.
Right.
Okay. And, just to see them take this thing for granted today.
I'm going to say this, because I have to call a thing a thing. Parents have to shoulder their share of responsibility here. And I'll tell anybody, I understand. Oh my God, I understand what it's like to have to work sometimes 2 and 3 jobs to feed your children. We got to get back to community.
Yeah.
I need to revive. I got to dig up and revive Big Mama. I got to bring Big Mama back. We've got to step in. We talk about the village, but we don't really have a village. No. Y'all, let's just be honest. No. The village is not what it used to be. We got to bring that back. We got to support each other. We got to help each other. We got to love each other on Valentine's Day of all days.
Yeah.
Because we're losing too many of our children over stuff that makes
mentality of people now. I mean, we also don't have the people that we had back in the day. I'm talking about with that type of mentality anymore. And it's like, I've seen some awful things. Well, you know what I'm saying? Not when the pandemic set in, but even before that, from individuals, you just see some awful things. Right. And you just, my mother always say, girl, you can't be surprised at people these days, because it's not what you think. You know what I'm saying? We think, we go into situations thinking one thing and dealing with people thinking, and it be something totally different. Right. So, some people is not going to have the compassion and, you know what I'm saying, and think of others like you might. You know what I'm saying? Right. You're right. The betterment of others. Mm-hmm. And making it a team thing, and you know what I'm saying. One eat, we all eat. People, we don't look at it like that. No,
we don't. We don't. We have disintegrated into a dog eat dog world. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've disintegrated into Darwinism, where only the strong survive. Mm-hmm. And what we don't understand is a chain is only as strong as the weakest link.
That's the weakest link. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And while there are people out there who say it's okay, if you're not strong enough to handle it, then you don't need to be here. Mm-hmm. Well, that is a description, a sad, pitiful description of our society.
Yeah.
Because it says we're not taking care of us. Period. Mm-hmm. Period.
No. I think about all of the things. Me and my son had a long conversation. And every so often I Google myself. You know what I'm saying? Just to see
what's out there.
To see what I got out there. I said, you know what? I done did over 70 interviews, television interviews, a documentary series. Feeding the community. I've always given back. Right. I did my fair share in this world of giving back. On every level. Mm-hmm. Even in the time I struggle.
Right.
I give back in the midst of my struggles. Right. I struggle every day. Mm-hmm. So it's it hurts to see this type of stuff going on. And I'm never going to put myself in a situation where I have to stoop down to a demon's level in any way, shape, or form. I'm never going to do that. I would separate myself and stand alone like most of the time that I do. It's not easy being... I'm not going to say that. It is easy being good. It is easy to treat people with dignity and respect.
Right.
It's easy to do.
Yes. The question is, what motivates you?
What motivates me?
What motivates you? Yes.
What motivates me is that I have 3 children and I have 4 grandchildren. That's what motivates me.
And you're looking at the bigger picture.
And I see the bigger picture. I always see the bigger picture. Mm-hmm. Even when, like I said, I still struggle every day. But at the same time, I know that I have a calling.
Right.
It's bigger than the average person can see.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? It's bigger. And even it be times that I want to give up. But God ain't going to let me, because mm-hmm. He's going to always, even in the midst of my struggles and what I might go through, or something might not work out right, God is always going to give me another way. Mm-hmm. He always going to, you know what I'm saying, bless me in another way. Mm-hmm. I had a talk with Pastor Harvey, and we just talked because, I'm trying to stay in this mind frame that I'm in right now, to not crumble, to not let different things get the best of me, but I'm going to set boundaries.
You have
it's something that I never did before.
You have to.
It's something that I never did before. I never set boundaries because I just went with it. I didn't even think that I had to until you get around certain people and then you understand when people used to always tell me, yeah, that little stuff you doing, you smiling and happy and you so free to do this and help somebody with this. But you're going to have to start setting boundaries because you're going to run into some people that's going to test you.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to test that. They don't know the person like I know. And this is my friend was saying, they don't know you like I know how you can get. So you don't even want to even let a person test you to that level. You know what I'm saying? Take you to that level. But at the same time, like I said, I'm going to just be this way because it has gotten me further. It has gotten me further. And I know that I have a calling. Right. I know I have a calling to do this. I know I have a calling to help my families out. Right. To get the word out there. Right. I have a message to deliver by any means necessary. That message is going to get delivered. Mm-hmm. And I thank God for people like yourself. You know what I'm saying? Because just coming in, when you came into my life, you knew what I needed at that time. You know what my fight was. I'm all about my families. I'm all about providing them with everything that they need. I follow my families from the beginning to the end. It's no ending.
Right.
It's no ending to it because I'm one person with a lot of cases, but I try to spread myself around because I know that they need me. And you know what I'm saying? In this situation, they need it. And it's times that I need them. I've been getting because sometimes I feel like, you know what I'm saying? And what am I doing all of this for? And then I have people like you. I have people like Miss D. I have people like, Alexis. Mm-hmm. Me and her talk for hours, about the situation, about just everything she's been going through. And, I tell people all the time, it's a struggle. It's a struggle every day.
And the sad part about it is we don't provide, one of my soapboxes, we talk so much about mental health, mm-hmm. but we don't provide the mental health services or make them available to people.
No. Mm-mm.
And so for you as a victim advocate, you end up being that mental health piece in their life. Mm-hmm. Because they don't have it any other way. Mm-hmm. Right. And after a while, it weighs on you. It's going to weigh on you. Mm-hmm. If you got a heart, if you have any compassion or empathy at all, it's going to weigh on you. And so you were needed and created for such a time as this. And so I believe you can't help but be blessed because you're doing what you're called to do, as hard as it is.
Hard as it is, and it's a struggle because like I said, I'm trying to reach people. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to reach the people. I'm trying to make sure that they get the message.
Right.
I don't want nobody to give up. You know what I'm saying? But we got to do better. Right. We got to accept our faults in this thing and move forward. Right. We can do it. Stop thinking that we can't. Because we can, it's just hard. It's hard. It is. And that's why I say, come March, I want to do 3 days, just getting this information out there because, as on this journey, I'm meeting people. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I'm meeting people that's putting me in a situation where I might have been struggling when I first got into this thing, but now it's like, okay, you meet these people and they saying, "Hey, I got this for you. I need for you to do this. I need for you to do that." So now it's like I know my calling is much bigger than I expected it to be. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep going. I'm just going to make it happen.
Right.
By any means necessary. I'm going to make it happen because I know that God is not providing me with the different things, that the blessings that he is for me not to, when I'm, you know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
Yeah. What drives you?
I've never been a fan of injustice.
Mm-hmm.
Life is not fair, but I'm not one. I have a difficult time dealing with unfairness.
Mm-hmm.
And I love people. Um, until a person proves themselves, and it don't take much. I ain't gonna lie, it don't take much. But until a person proves themselves to be evil to the core, I gotta keep fighting for them.
Me too. That's how I feel.
I have to keep fighting for them. And the sad part about it is, there are people who don't know how to fight for themselves.
Yeah.
They want to. They don't know how.
They don't know how.
So they need an advocate. I at one time needed an advocate. And so I'm grateful. I mean, I tell people I don't wear my Christianity on my sleeve, but I'm grateful that I have an advocate in heaven constantly, because I'm not perfect. Or I make my mistakes. I do. I do some things I probably shouldn't do. I work hard every day to intentionally not hurt people. I work hard every day to do good, do what is right by all.
Right, yeah.
But I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm a perfect person and I got it all together and I don't fall, because I do. I'm human.
All do.
I'm human.
We all do.
And so
living in this world, you're going to fall.
And so
if you don't fall, you're going to have somebody push you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
You know?
You're going to have somebody push you.
I can't be so arrogant as to think I don't have anything to offer, or I got mine, you got to get yours. I mean, I mentioned this morning I was in the county council meeting. I mean, I'm working to help people who literally are volunteering their time and services to the county, but they're being treated like they don't matter.
They're being treated like they don't even matter.
And I'm like, oh my God, where in the world do you work for free? And they can't even show you a little bit of appreciation. Because you don't have to do this.
Yeah.
And so I find myself advocating for people who want to serve and are being denied. I love working with seniors because they have so much that they can share and give back. They also need advocates. They need to be protected.
They need to be protected.
Children. That's my passion. They don't know any better. They come here as blank slates.
Yeah.
They live what we teach them.
What we teach them. Exactly.
If we want them to be better, we have to do better.
We got to do better.
I mean, sitting in the county council meeting and listening to a county council member start talking about praying for our children so that they won't go down the wrong road. Well,
we done did that. We done did it inside of a church.
Let's set the example for the children so they won't go down the wrong road.
That's right.
Let's live a life in front of our children so that they won't go down the wrong road.
Exactly. Stop putting it on everybody else to provide the things that it's going to take.
Right.
For them to go down the right road.
Right. Why doesn't our government provide the resources that the children need so that they can follow the right path? But when we have schools that are 50 plus years old, mold infested, asbestos infested, when the water is nasty and it's not providing any nutritional value, when teachers are tired and overworked, and so they can't come in every day with the high motivation that it takes sometimes to educate. When parents are overworked and tired and frustrated and stressed, and sometimes they're overwhelmed and don't know what to do with these babies, where do you turn?
Right.
And when you look to your government and there's no social services local, you can't find social workers to help you get through it. Everybody talks about mental health, but there are no mental health counselors to help you get through it. Where do you go? What do you do? What do you do? And so, I mean, that's the thing that motivates me. That's the thing that drives me. I'm sitting here listening to Uncle Emmanuel talk about the white people who've been a hand up to him.
Right.
And I couldn't help but think about my Caucasian friends and colleagues and mentors and supporters along the way who've been a hand up. You think about family members who've poured into your life. So that you can do better. They were paying it forward.
Yeah.
And now I have to do the same thing.
Now you got to do the same thing. That's how I feel. I say, even given my time, I could actually say that I've been blessed. Even, so when I was looking at him when he was talking about, because he didn't have none of those horror stories.
No.
And y'all, that's not why we brought him here. We didn't bring him here because we knew he didn't have horror stories, but it's just to show you another way.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like I said, my son, we were in Missouri, last state to free the slaves. Every opportunity that I have ever been given that was making me a better person. Yep. That was, that I didn't have, that wasn't no hatred. It wasn't, they didn't put their foot in my back or in my chest to keep me grounded in one place.
Yes.
Yo, you gonna be here and this, that. Nah, I was around people that showed me how to evolve.
Yes.
Because that's how, when I get around people, that's how I'm going to be. I'm going to show you it's not about me. It's about us.
Right.
Whatever situation is that we're all going to evolve in this. We're all going to, you know what I'm saying? Everybody got a job to do. So that's how I've been taught. Those are the morals. And like I said, it came from my mom, but it came from them white sisters and brothers that looked at me when I was pulling that trash at St. Louis University and said, nah, I ain't going, they could have lied to me and say, well, you need a degree and because I'm pretty sure all of them had it.
Right. And I'm going to keep saying this. I can't help but keep saying this. We've got to stop holding on to the grudge of racism.
Because I've been let it go. I think I'm more against my own. I mean, not against, but I'm more disappointed in my own people.
Yes.
Right now, today, racism, it doesn't even exist to me. I don't know what to call what we as Black people, that's Black on Black stuff we got going on. I don't know what to call that.
I would tell anybody. I would tell anybody, please don't get my words twisted. Racism is there, but it is not as prominent as we want it to be. That's why I said we got to stop holding on to the grudge.
We have to.
We got to stop using it as an excuse. I was not in the meeting this morning, but I was informed that there was a discussion during the first hour of the executive committee meeting of the county council about the sale of cannabis. And there was a long discussion about a concern about African Americans selling it. And I said, wait a minute, what? You mean they spent almost an hour debating on supporting a state bill that's being considered right now in the General Assembly because they're more concerned about Black people selling it. I said, did we not talk about the potential impact on traffic safety? Did we not talk about the increase in people driving under the influence? Did they not discuss the potential side effects to the physical body, to the mental body, anything and everything else that I've heard in debates about whether cannabis, marijuana should be legal recreationally? Did we talk about any of that? No. The concern was Black people selling it.
Mm-hmm. And that's always been a concern, and I think that's the reason why it has been, you know, in the situation that it's been like considered, like they look at marijuana like they look at cocaine.
You know, and it blew my mind. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, thank God I didn't make it to the meeting before 10:15, because I probably had to get on my people.
Because when this thing first kicked off, when they first started, you start hearing about legalization.
Right.
You know, them, you know, with the dispensaries and all of that type of stuff. You know, it was kind of, when I learned about it, you know what I'm saying, that they were trying to legalize it and getting involved with, you know, progressive Maryland. Because I was, I sit up here and I tell, because I'm not ashamed of it, because I would rather see it legalized than to see Black people in jail for it.
Right. I understand that, and trust me,
you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I appreciate that argument.
Yeah, I would rather see it in the situation where, because there are medical benefits for it, but when you're talking about legalizing it, it should be some regulations.
Right.
We can't have it moving around all loosely like they got in DC.
Right.
Because it's like them little if you don't regulate this thing and put this stuff into, you know, put the right paper, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Word this thing right. Like, we set up for hours to try to see how we were going to bring this to the floor where we get this approved. It wasn't no, like, DC was a little totally different. They went and passed out, you know, they had us passing out joints for jabs. Okay. You get you a couple of joints if you go in there and get the vaccine. Okay? No, seriously. They did. They had us out there passing out joints for vaccines. Wow. Okay?
Wow.
But Maryland, you know, them meetings were like, we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about the bad downside of this.
Yes.
And you know what I'm saying? How we can, you know, that's just like they sat around and they talk about the casino, where that money was supposed to go, but ain't nobody stand on it. You see what I'm saying? But see, progressive Maryland is going to stand on it.
And again, I appreciate that position.
We going to stand on it. When we talk about we want some of this money going to them schools, we're going to stand on that.
And that's my concern. In our community. Let's talk about how we're going to regulate it.
Yeah.
Talk about what we're going to do when you tax it. Trust and believe it's going to be taxed.
Yeah, it's going to be taxed. Y'all better understand that. It's going to be totally different than what y'all see in DC, because y'all can go in DC, y'all can go in any, you know, there's 3 on the within 2, you know, with 2 stores in between them right there. You know, all up and through DC.
Let me tell you, big tobacco ain't as big as it used to be. They ain't making that money, that revenue off of them cigarettes no more. But for folks who want to be out here smoking their blunts, you gonna pay the tax.
You gonna pay the tax for it. Yep, it's gonna be taxed.
Let's have that discussion. But the discussion about Black people selling it, guess what? If it's legal, why can't they sell it? Because what's the problem with us selling it, making the money off of it? As long as you're paying the taxes, as long as you're following the laws and the regulations, you're running a legal business, what's the problem? I don't understand what the debate is about. It should never be a debate.
Right.
The people voted to make it legal recreationally. So guess what? Black folk gonna sell it.
Yes,
they gonna sell it legally. Gonna sell it illegally.
Illegally around the corner and back again.
Guess what?
You know, I'm telling you.
Look,
if we can get a grower's license, we're gonna get a grower's license.
Exactly. White folk gonna sell it legally.
We're gonna get us a farm. We're going to get us a warehouse. We're going to do it all. If we can move it in the way of where medical benefits from it, we're going to do it.
You
to
got
that
that exactly. Once you put it into the marketplace, the economy takes over. You got a demand. Somebody gonna provide a supply.
That you better know it.
So whether you support a state law or not should not be dependent upon who the suppliers are going to be. You're going to have suppliers one way or another.
One way or another.
The question then becomes, how do we regulate it so that we ensure our suppliers are acting legally and responsibly, and they're offering products that aren't going to ultimately kill a lot of people? That should be the concern. But when I hear the conversations that we're having, I'm like, we missing the mark again. I don't understand that. How we do? What we doing, people? Come on, people. And so education is a big part of who I am. I used to think it was just because my mom was a teacher.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't just because mom was a teacher. I have learned for myself that when you don't know, ignorance comes out of your mouth. When you don't understand, ignorance comes out of your mouth. And you operate on what you think you know, and sometimes it's totally wrong. And so I encourage us as a people, we got to get educated.
Yes, we do.
And stop saying it's racism. Racism ain't got nothing to do with the fact that we don't want to pick up a book and learn something.
And stop making excuses and do what you're supposed to do. You know, it's Love Day. You know,
look,
I know you looking sitting over there. Yes,
sometimes it's tough love, baby. It ain't always about it.
Yeah,
baby, it's all good. No. Sometimes love means I gotta chastise you. I gotta correct you. I gotta lead you in the right direction. That's love too.
That's right.
And I love us enough to tell us we got to do better.
Y'all hear that? Y'all, we gonna end a little early today. You know, so we will be back next week. And
who we got on the show next week?
It's a surprise.
Oh, okay. I won't miss it.
It's a surprise. But you know, we got 5 Tuesdays in Black History, but at the end of the month we will be having Dr. Claude Anderson. Okay. So
look, like they say, Black History. Thank you, McDonald's 365.
That's right.
Every day.
Every day.
We, each and every one of us, are Black History.
That's right. I love y'all. See y'all next week.